After discovering her mother's betrayal with her millionaire fiancé, she performed a heartwarming artist's revenge that changed everything. Lila stood at the schoolhouse door, the crisp autumn air tinged with the sweet smell of pumpkin spice. Her heart was alight with joy. She was finally going to marry Jake. They'd been together since college, a sturdy love built on lazy Sunday mornings and laughter over coffee. As she watched children rush into the building, their boundless energy made her smile. This quaint small-town Ohio life felt like a dream. But the dream began to crack that day. It was the day she accidentally discovered her mother's secret. Stumbling upon an old journal at home, Lila's eyes widened at the revelation of her mother's affair with Jake. How could her heartthrob have led such a double life? Not only was he her fiancé, but he was also the wealthy mechanic behind a thriving auto shop, hidden behind a facade of denim and grease-streaked hands. Lila's breath caught in her chest, her heart pounding painfully. When had everything shifted? Her world shattered as Lila's emotions washed over her like a violent storm. Her mother's betrayal felt like a knife twisting in her gut. She had always viewed her mother as a paragon of love and support, not a deceiving shadow lurking in the corners of her dreams. She stood frozen in disbelief, tears streaming down her cheeks. Deep down, she knew she had to channel this heartache into something meaningful. A few weeks later, as she looked at the happy faces of her students, a spark ignited. What if she created an arts program for underprivileged children? She envisioned a safe haven, a place for kids to express themselves amidst the rawness of life, a symbol of hope that would rise from her pain. Just when her program was taking off, her mother reached out. The phone call was tentative, laden with equal parts longing and regret. "Lila," her mother urged, voice trembling, "we need to talk." Sitting on her porch, she felt torn. The warmth of the evening sun did little to ease the chill in her bones. Their conversation was a weighty tug-of-war of emotions. Stories of sacrifices and hidden ambitions resurfaced, challenging everything Lila thought she knew about family. Could she ever forgive her mother? The anger felt so consuming, yet Lila realized her mother carried burdens she had never fully understood. It stirred a strange mix of pity and fury inside her. As the night of the local arts award ceremony approached, anticipation echoed through the town. Lila could hardly breathe as she took center stage. Her program, rooted in resilience, was finally catching the attention it deserved. Her eyes scanned the audience, landing on Jake and her mother, tension crackling like electricity between them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart raced, pounding like a drum. Standing at that podium, she felt the weight of all her experiences pressing against her. What would she say? Would she choose to shove her mother away or reach for healing? As she opened her mouth to speak, a single tear rolled down her cheek. The audience held its breath, waiting. Would she confront the truth that could redefine everything? As the audience leaned in, Lila took a shaky breath. The moment stretched, an eternity in a heartbeat. Would her voice shake? Would she crumble? She steadied herself, remembering all the children who poured their hopes and dreams into her program. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, feeling the warmth of their gazes. "This program is about giving our kids a space to explore who they are, especially when the world outside is uncertain." Her chest tightened as her eyes flickered to where Jake and her mother sat. Their presence was like a weight, pulling her back into shadows she desperately wanted to escape. She felt the room's silence wrap around her, tempting her to get lost in it. But she knew she had a choice. "Life throws curveballs at us, sometimes when we least expect it," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "We face heartbreak and betrayal. We feel lost, but it's in the cracks where light seeps through, and that's what we share with our children, a glimmer of hope." A murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. Lila's heart quickened with hope, mixed with the turmoil that still churned inside her. The words felt like a lifeline, a promise to herself that she would not let this moment define her. She studied the faces around her, some hopeful, some encouraging. It filled her with a determination she didn't know she had. I stand here not just as a teacher, but as someone who's learning to forgive others, and more importantly, myself. A lump formed in her throat. The air buzzed with emotion, brushing against her skin like a soft breeze. She hesitated, but in that pause, she felt a flood of understanding for her mother and all the imperfections that came with being human. There's pain, and sometimes that pain is close to home, but it doesn't have to stay that way. We can harness it, shape it into art, expression, and connection. A tear slipped from her eye, and she wiped it away, the defiance giving her strength. Art has no boundaries, and neither does love. Jake sat still, uncertainty clouding his expression. Lila wondered what he was thinking, and if he grasped the weight of her words. Her mother, too, looked torn between shame and hope. It felt raw and real. But what I ask of you all tonight is not to dwell in our past hurts. Instead, let us choose to support each other and grow, even in the midst of suffering. We don't have to carry those wounds alone. Applause erupted, sudden and overwhelming, drowning her in a wave of sound. Lila smiled through tears, her heart swelling with a newfound strength. In that moment, she knew she was finally stepping into her own power. Yet as the cheers echoed through the hall, a familiar face in the front row caught her attention. The mayor stepped up to the podium and cleared his throat. "Lila, your speech was moving, and your program is commendable," he began. But before he could continue, the whispers in the crowd transformed into a buzz, a low hum that turned into a gasp as he lifted an envelope. "But there's something important I need to address about this award ceremony." Lila's pulse quickened. She could sense something monumental about to unfold. What did he mean? Did it relate to her program, or perhaps to Jake and her mother? Excitement and dread coiled inside her. What revelation was about to change everything she thought she understood? Lila's heart raced as she clutched the podium. The applause faded into the backdrop of her thoughts. The mayor was known for his speeches, each word carefully chosen, but the way he held that envelope made her stomach drop. It felt as if he were holding the weight of every secret she hadn't dared face. "Thank you, Lila," he said warmly, turning serious. "Your work in the community, especially with the youth, is vital. However, there are matters regarding funding that need immediate attention." He hesitated, as if gauging the energy in the room. "There have been concerns about the allocation of grants in light of recent developments." Whispers surged through the crowd, and Lila's breath hitched. Her mind raced. What developments? Her gaze darted to Jake, whose brows furrowed in confusion. She locked eyes with her mother, who had gone pale, the warmth draining from her face. "Due to a change in regulations," the mayor continued, "the city council may need to redirect funds. We are taking steps to ensure that programs such as Lila's continue to thrive, but there will be adjustments made. Some perhaps that will be difficult." The air grew thick. Her hands shook as Lila tried to process the possibilities. What adjustments? Would they cut her program? Was this why her mother had looked so anxious all evening? Each unanswered question twisted like a knife in her chest. "But I assure the community that you have a voice. If we come together, we can advocate for these kids," he said, raising the envelope high. "This certificate symbolizes not just an award, but a commitment, and I urge you all to support these endeavors." More applause followed, but Lila felt the edges of her world beginning to fray, the applause now a distant echo. The cheers faded into a muddled hum as worry crested over her like a wave. She caught sight of her mother, who looked like she was about to shatter. Lila's thoughts zigzagged wildly, the chaos within her screaming questions louder than she could handle. She had fought to build this program. It had been her lifeline. With each child she inspired, she felt the walls of her past starting to dissolve, yet now they threatened to close in around her. Just as the noise morphed into silence, drawing everyone's attention, the mayor spoke again, but this time with a tone that hinted at even greater significance. "And as for you, Lila, plans for a gala?" At that moment, a figure stepped into view from the side, a shadow against the bright stage lights. It was Jake. his face taut with something raw. Without thinking, he moved toward Lila, a sense of urgency in his stride. "Lila," he said, his voice low. "We need to talk. Now." Her heart dropped as dread washed over her. The look in his eyes hinted at something urgent, a revelation that could tip the balance of everything she was fighting for. "Jake, can it wait?" she whispered back, hoping to keep her composure for just a bit longer. "Not this. Please," he said, glancing toward the crowd. The atmosphere felt electric, charged with the energy of 1,000 unsaid things. He reached for her hand gently, and she felt all her walls tremble. Lila glanced at the faces around the room, nervous, expectant, curious. Where were they on the brink of? As she looked back at Jake, all the turmoil she had been trying to suppress roared to life. She knew she had to make a choice. "What is happening?" she finally pressed, her voice unsteady. "Just, please." He took a breath, steadying himself. "It's about your mother. There's more than just funding at stake." In that moment, she felt time freeze, heart racing as reality shifted beneath her feet, the truth lurking just out of reach. What lay ahead would be life-changing, both terrifying and freeing all at once. Would she be ready to face the darkness of the truth, or would it sound the final blow to everything she had built? Lila felt a chill crawl up her spine as she stared into Jake's eyes. The urgency and worry etched on his face sent her heart into overdrive. "What do you mean more than just funding?" she managed to stammer, breathless. "Your mom. She's in a bit of trouble." His voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the buzz of the crowd surrounding them like a knife. "Trouble? What kind of trouble?" Her pulse quickened. She glanced back at her mother, who was still frozen in place, her eyes wide with worry. The room felt increasingly suffocating, each heartbeat pounding against her chest as if it were trying to break free. "Just, please, let's talk outside." He tugged her hand gently, and she followed him, her mind racing with 1,000 questions. Once they crossed the threshold into the dimly lit hallway, the muffled sounds of the gala faded. Panic settled in her gut. "Jake, what is going on? Why didn't my mom tell me? What trouble?" He hesitated, his eyes darting to the walls as if the answer might be hiding there. "Your mom's been keeping a secret. She's been involved with someone, the kind of person who could change everything." The tremor in his voice made the room spin. "Is it Dad? Is he back?" The thought took her breath away. No, it's not him." Jake held her shoulders, grounding her just as her world threatened to tilt. "It's someone else, a man named Derek. He's wealthy, influential, and—" "Derek? My mom's dating him? Why is that a problem?" Confusion mingled with anger. Her mother had spent years trying to navigate life without a partner, and now she was with someone wealthy? Lila had always thought she wanted her mother to be happy. "Lila, he's not just some guy. There are rumors about his dealings, and about how he might be connected to a city council scandal. If your mom is involved with him, it could ruin her. And you, too." The implications carved deep lines of dread in Lila's forehead. This can't be happening." Her voice wavered. She thought she knew her mother inside out, but now, it felt like she was staring into an abyss of deception. "Listen," Jake said, squeezing her shoulders. "I know you're scared, but if we don't figure this out, if somebody finds out first—" His voice trailed off, leaving the words hanging like a noose around her heart. "I need to talk to her," Lila said, urgency replacing disbelief. "She needs to know I'm here for her." "Are you sure?" Jake's eyes searched hers, filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "This could change everything for you both. She might not be as open as you think. I can't run away from this. I have to confront it, whatever it is." The determination rose within her, igniting a fire that pushed against the shadows of uncertainty. As they re-entered the ballroom, Lila felt the weight of the crowd pressing in, a sea of faces oblivious to the storm brewing behind the smiles and applause. Her heart thudded painfully as she spotted her mother, still standing by the podium. Lila moved toward her, Jake trailing close behind. Each step felt heavy, filled with the weight of unspoken truths. "Mom," she called, her voice breaking through the noise. The world seemed to still, eyes turning their way, whispers now palpable. Her mother turned, confusion morphing into shock as she caught Lila's gaze. "Lila, what? Can we talk?" The urgency in Lila's voice brooked no argument. Every pair of eyes felt like knives, but they were sharper than mere curious observers. They were judging, waiting for something to unfold. "Of course, honey. Is something wrong?" Her mother moved forward, concern flooding her features. Lila swallowed, the words stuck in her throat. The truth loomed over them, waiting to erupt like a volcano. Dangerous and all-consuming. Would her mother trust her enough to share what lay hidden? "We need to talk about Derek." The name hung in the air, heavy with implications and dread. Silence fell. Her mother's expression changed, something flickering beneath the surface. Fear. Guilt. As the crowd around them buzzed with excitement, Lila stood on the precipice of a revelation that could shatter everything. In this moment, she felt the weight of her decisions settle on her shoulders. Was standing up for her mother a courageous act, or a desperate gamble? As her mother's face paled, Lila knew they were about to enter a battle neither had prepared for. What new revelations awaited them in the harsh light of truth? Lila watched her mother's face, searching for clarity. The room was too loud. The laughter and chatter of partygoers blurred into a distant hum. All that mattered was the two of them, standing on the edge of a revelation thick with tension. "What about Derek?" her mother finally croaked, a tremor in her voice that betrayed her calm facade. "Jake told me. He thinks there's something off about him, something dangerous." The words felt heavy as they fell from Lila's lips, each syllable weighing down the air between them like a stone. "You shouldn't be worrying about that," her mother replied, but there was a quiver in her chin, a flicker of uncertainty that Lila never remembered seeing before. "He's just someone I've met recently." "Just someone?" Lila pressed, her heart pounding in rhythm with the drums of anxiety in her chest. "Mom, he's involved in a scandal that could ruin everything for you. I need to know. Are you really okay?" The questions poured out like a dam breaking. Faces around them began to peel away, and the gala turned into a blur of brightly colored dresses and suits, punctuated by the glittering chandeliers overhead. It was as if they were cocooned in their own world. "Lila, listen to me." Her mother's voice dropped, the words edged with desperation. "Derek is complicated, but he's not like what they're saying. I can take care of myself." "But can you really?" "Mom, this isn't just about you anymore. I'm scared of what could happen if the truth comes out." The rawness of her fear seeped into her voice, and she felt the tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "How could you keep this from me?" "I didn't want you to worry. I thought—" She paused, searching for the right words. "I thought I could handle it alone." The weight of silence echoed in the air. Lila's stomach twisted into knots. "You're not alone. I'm here, and I want to help." Her mother's gaze softened, those familiar blue-green eyes now glistening with unshed tears. "I've tried so hard to make a life for us, to keep you safe. And I thought finding someone who cares for me could make everything easier." "That's what you deserve, but it has to be real, not this illusion." The two stared at each other, a charged silence wrapping around them. Lila felt burrowed in truth, yet surrounded by half-truths. Was her mother blinded by the spark that Derek had ignited, or was it something deeper? Lila didn't want to turn away, but she could feel the weight of deception suffocating her. Just as she opened her mouth to demand more honesty, a commotion surged in the background. A group of guests whispered loudly, and Lila couldn't help but glance over her shoulder. There stood Derek, all sharp lines and designer threads, flanked by a few acquaintances, his gaze locked on them like a predator focused on prey. Her heart lurched at the sight of him. How could he be so charming, so unfazed by the chaos brewing? "Mom, we have to be careful. I don't like how he's looking at us." The urgency in her tone pierced through the moment. "I'll handle it," her mother said tightly, her voice more steady now, as if armor was being fitted in place. "This is my life, and I won't let rumors dictate it." "Please don't be reckless," Lila pleaded, grabbing her mother's hand tightly. "Let's go. Let's leave. We can figure this out together." But before her mother could respond, Derek approached them, a smile plastered on his face. That smile felt like a crack in an ice-covered lake, ready to shatter. "Everything all right, ladies?" he asked, his voice oozing charm, while Lila felt herself shrink under his gaze. Lila could almost feel the tension crackling in the air. She took a breath, ready to confront him, ready to protect her mother from whatever darkness was lurking just beneath the surface. "Actually, Derek, we were just—" But before she could finish, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the ballroom, plunging the atmosphere into chaos. The world around them suddenly felt primed for an explosion, and Lila could sense that everything was about to change. Would her mother's world come crashing down, or was Lila prepared to fight tooth and nail for the truth? As the crowd stirred in confusion, the question hung thick in the air. Could they survive the fallout of this perfect storm? Lila barely had time to process the crash, when the sounds of shouting and scattering footsteps burst into the gala like firecrackers. Her heart raced, mirroring the chaos around her. She shifted her gaze from the crowd to her mother, whose face was a mix of shock and dread. "Go!" Lila urged, pulling at her mother's arm, but the fear in her mother's eyes rooted her to the spot. Derek's charming mask slipped just slightly, revealing a glint of something ominous in his expression. Lila's instinct screamed at her to get away. "Let's move, please!" Lila insisted, her voice rising above the din. Derek stepped closer, concern playing on his lips, but there was an unsettling quality to it. "Is everything okay here?" he asked, eyes flicking to Lila, then back to her mother, almost as if he were sizing them up. "It's nothing," her mother replied too quickly, a weak smile barely masking her nerves. "Just a little excitement." "No, it's more than that," Lila interjected, her voice firm. "We should really go." Just then, a panicked guest stumbled past them, clutching her phone as she muttered about broken glass and someone hurt. The tension in the air thickened. Lila's grip on her mother tightened as she pulled her toward the exit, her gut twisting with every passing moment. As they swept away from the chaos, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that Derek was still watching them. The most unnerving part was the way he seemed unbothered by the panic around him, a calm center in a storm. "Lila." Her mother's voice broke through her thoughts. What if there's nothing to worry about? What if Derek is just a normal guy? But Lila's instincts told her otherwise. "You've seen the signs. We can't ignore them. Just trust me." "I do trust you," her mother said, her voice thick with emotion. "But I want to believe in something good for a change." They finally reached the quieter atmosphere outside the venue. The stars shone down, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in Lila's heart. She turned to face her mother, whose expression was a combination of hope and vulnerability. "I want that too, but not at the cost of your safety." "His charm could be masking something much darker," Lila urged, a wave of determination washing over her. Before her mother could respond, Lila's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She fished it out, glancing at the screen, and her breath hitched in her throat. It was a text from Jake, filled with urgent warnings and cryptic conversations about Derek. "Mom, look at this." Lila shoved the phone toward her mother, whose expression morphed as she read the message. "Is this true?" Her mother's voice trembled, and Lila could see the determination shift to fear. "It has to be. We need to dig deeper." "Do you want to know the whole truth?" Lila asked, feeling a new fire ignite in her. The stakes were too high to play games, but that was when they heard footsteps approaching. Derek emerged from the shadows, his face unreadable, and Lila's heart raced again. "Ladies, it seems I've been looking for you." The hush that fell over their reunion was potent with the weight of unresolved truths. Lila could see her mother's resolve falter as she took a step back, a faint tremor in her hands. "Why are you so intent on ruining my life?" Derek's voice dripped with condescension. "You think you know what's best for her?" Lila braced herself, ready to defend, knowing full well that the next few moments could change everything. Choices lingered heavy in the air. Would they confront Derek head-on, or retreat into the safety of uncertainty? As the tension simmered, Lila glanced at her mother, seeking a silent agreement in the chaos. But would her mother stand with her, or would she remain lost in the fog of attraction? The night was dark and full of secrets, and Lila realized that this was just the beginning of a fight she hadn't anticipated. What lengths would she go to uncover the truth? And could the truth even save her mother from the man who seemed to be hiding a storm beneath his perfect smile? Lila's heart thudded in her chest, each beat a reminder that they were standing on the edge of a precipice, the chasm of uncertainty yawning wide beneath them. Derek stood there, a predator cloaked in charm, his gaze flickering between Lila and her mother, like a hawk assessing two vulnerable rabbits. He took a step forward, a smile painting his lips that didn't reach his eyes. "Didn't I mention how much I appreciate your concern?" Derek said smoothly, the words rolling off his tongue like silk. "But are you sure it's really about that? Or is it about something else? Maybe jealousy?" "Jealous? Of what?" Lila scoffed, anger fueling her voice. "Your deceit? Or the way you've manipulated her?" Her mother winced at Lila's words, and for a moment Lila's heart sank. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about her mother's choices, her mother's heart. But she couldn't let fear dictate their fate, not now when the truth felt so close. "Perhaps you should listen to your daughter," Derek responded, feigning innocence. "She seems to have a very vivid imagination." "Enough!" Lila shouted, feeling a surge of desperation. "You can't keep playing games with her life. I refuse to let you dig your claws into her any longer." The air crackled with tension. Her mother's gaze dropped to the ground, shifting anxiously under Derek's scrutiny. Lila's thoughts raced, recalling the ominous messages from Jake, the warnings that painted Derek in sinister shades. How could she make her mother see? "Look at him, Mom," Lila pleaded, her voice shaking. "Look at the man behind the mask. He's not what you think he is. He's dangerous." Derek let out a low chuckle, his confidence radiating like the moon in a clear night sky, only illuminating ominous shadows. "You should be careful, Lila. Accusing someone like me can lead to unexpected consequences." "Consequences?" Lila repeated, her voice hardening. "You think I'm afraid of you?" "No, I think you're afraid of losing what you think is yours," Derek replied, crossing his arms with a smirk. "The safety of your mother's heart. But really, what are you prepared to do for it?" For a fleeting moment, Lila felt a flash of doubt. What if he was right? What if her fight was futile? But the steel in her spine flared again as she caught her mother's eye, now shining with a hint of defiance. "Mom, you have to trust me. We can face him together. Don't let his charm blind you, please." Tears welled up in her mother's eyes, reflecting both fear and a flicker of hope. Derek shifted, his expression hardening, just as Lila felt the ground under her shudder like thunder before a storm. "Mom, say something," Lila urged, feeling the weight of all their unspoken fears hang thick in the air. Her mother hesitated, her voice trembling. "Lila, I want to believe in love, in the idea that he can be the man I need." Derek's smirk returned, triumphant. "See? Sometimes love isn't about what you want. It's about what you can endure." In one swift move, Lila stepped in front of her mother. "No more enduring. We will uncover the truth together, no matter the cost." Derek's eyes flared with anger, and Lila braced herself for any retaliation. "You think this is a game? It's not just about protecting your mother. You're meddling in things you can't possibly understand." Suddenly, her phone rang, a notification breaking through the tension. She glanced down, heart racing as Jake's name flashed across the screen. She couldn't ignore it any longer. Not now. "Mom, take your phone and text Jake," Lila urged quickly, her eyes darting between her mother and Derek. "We need backup." "What are you going to do?" her mother asked, trepidation lacing her voice. "Find out the truth," Lila declared, adrenaline coursing through her veins. But as she turned back to Derek, she caught sight of a darkness that unsettled her. In that moment, his gaze promised retaliation that sent chills down her spine. How far would Derek go to protect his secrets? As her heart thundered against her ribs, Lila realized they were entering a battle that could upend their lives forever. Would they emerge victorious, or would they be swallowed whole by Derek's web of deception? The stakes were rising, and Lila knew one thing for certain. The truth was waiting just beyond the horizon. But would they have the courage to face it? "Lila!" Her mother's voice broke through the haze of tension. "Wait!" Lila paused, her heart racing. She turned, frustration boiling inside her. Her mother's face was a tapestry of fear, love, and uncertainty. Would she actually give in to Derek's manipulation? Unable to hold back any longer, Lila rushed back towards her. "Mom, no! We need to act now. We can't let him twist your words or your heart," Lila pleaded, grabbing her hands. "Please, just text Jake. He can help us." I don't know if it's smart to engage him more than we have," her mother whispered, glancing nervously toward Derek. "Mom, listen," Lila's voice softened. "You are stronger than you think. You've always taught me that love shouldn't come with chains, right? You deserve to be free, but first we need to expose him." Her mother looked down, her fingers trembling. Lila squeezed her hands tighter, hoping to infuse strength into her. Derek's laughter echoed, cruel and confident. "In case you haven't noticed, Lila, this is my world. You're just a visitor, and I decide who stays or goes." Something shifted inside Lila. She felt her mother's fear mixing with her own anger, creating a force powerful enough to challenge him. But the sensation of helplessness lingered, threatening to pull her under. "Mom, I need you to trust me. Text Jake. We need someone on our side who knows how to handle someone like him," she urged again. There was a long moment of silence, and Lila could see her mother's internal battle. The flicker of doubt in her eyes shifted to something that looked like resolve. "Okay, I trust you," she finally breathed, pulling out her phone. Lila felt a rush of relief, but knew they weren't out of the woods yet. Cornered, Derek took a step forward. "Your little plan won't work, you know. You have no idea how deep this goes. If you think I'll just let you both walk away." Jake's text came through. "Need to talk. Urgent. Call me." Lila quickly tapped a reply, her fingers flying over the screen. "Derek's here. We need you now." Derek's smirk faded, replaced by a simmering rage. "You think calling for help will save you? You don't know what you're dealing with. What do you think I'm afraid of?" Lila shot back, emboldened. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear and determination igniting within. "I know you're dangerous. You don't have any power over us unless we let you." Derek's eyes narrowed, and the atmosphere thickened with tension. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, little girl. You're playing a dangerous game." Just then, a loud knock shattered the tension in the air, echoing through the room. Lila's heart stopped as she exchanged a quick glance with her mother. Was it Jake? "Derek, I'm sure you're aware of who's at my door," Lila said, forcing confidence into her voice. "You might want to consider what happens next." He clenched his jaw, the facade of calm slipping. "Let me remind you, I won't go down without a fight. You're making a terrible mistake," he spat out, eyes glimmering like cold steel. But when Lila opened the door, she was met with the last person she expected to see. Her father, standing there with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "Lila," he said slowly, taking a measured step inside. "I heard there was trouble, and I needed to be here." Derek's face twisted with fury as he realized he was no longer the only power player in the room. Lila took a deep breath, her heart racing with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Could her father help turn the tide? Derek's anger sparked, and he knew the stakes had escalated. Lila felt the weight of the moment, but deep down she believed this confrontation might finally unravel the truth. "Together, we can face him," she whispered to her mother, who nodded slowly, taking courage from her daughter's conviction. But the shadows in Derek's eyes still flickered with threats. As they faced him together, Lila's heartbeat quickened again. She felt the precipice beneath them, and she knew there was no turning back. What had her father brought with him? Would it be enough to tip the scales in their favor? Or was Derek's darkness too deep to penetrate? Lila glanced at her father, his presence both grounding and daunting. She saw the familiar sharpness in his eyes, the determination that had always inspired her. This was a different man from the one who had walked away years ago. He was here now, ready to fight for them. "Dad, you don't know what you're getting into," she warned, her voice barely above a whisper, as Derek's gaze shifted between them, calculating and dangerous. "Oh, I know plenty," he replied, his voice steady. "But I also know that you two are not alone in this." Derek's sneer returned, mocking. "How adorable. Do you actually think he can protect you? There's no escaping me." Lila felt her heart racing, each beat like a drum echoing in her ears. She stepped closer to her father, feeling the warmth radiating from him. The unity between them strengthened her resolve. "You may have tried to isolate us, Derek, but you're forgetting something. Family stands together, and it's time you see the strength we share," Lila declared, her voice rising with conviction. Derek's smile twitched, a flash of fear lurking under his bravado. "What do you think will happen when I reveal the truth about your dear old dad? For all the world to know what kind of man he really is?" The room felt charged, like the air before a storm. Lila watched her father's jaw tighten, but he didn't flinch. Was there something she didn't know? Her mother took a step forward, her voice trembling yet steady. "No more lies, Derek. No more threats. We're done playing your game." Derek's face shifted, anger flaring. "You have no idea what you are provoking," he spat. Many emotions swirled inside Lila, fear, anger, but above all, an unyielding desire to protect her family. "Whatever you plan, we'll be ready for it. We've already taken the first step," she shot back, glancing at her mother, who held her phone tightly, as if it were a lifeline. Derek recoiled slightly at her words, the unsettling realization that they were standing their ground. But then he turned his attention to Lila's father. "You think you can just waltz back in and make waves? You have no idea how deep this runs," he warned, venom dripping from his words. Yet Lila sensed her father's calm. He stood tall, silent affirmation flickering in his eyes. "Try me," he replied, his voice almost chilling in its tranquility. Just then, another knock came, this time accompanied by muffled voices outside. The sound jolted Lila, and in a reflex, she turned toward the door. "More friends to the party?" Derek scoffed, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his gaze now. With a racing heartbeat, Lila stepped aside, uncertain yet excited about who could bring support next. She opened the door cautiously, revealing a group of allies she hadn't anticipated but desperately needed. "Lila, we got your message." Jake's voice rang out, urgency coloring his words. Behind him, a few familiar faces from school stood, ready to back her up. Lila's heart leapt at the sight of her friends. This was it. She felt the spirit of defiance rising within her. They were taking a stand together, no longer just a whisper behind closed doors. "Get in here. We have to confront this monster," she urged, her voice growing louder. As they filed in, Derek's facade shattered. With people surrounding her, Lila felt the weight of hope, unity breaking through the darkness Derek represented. "What are you going to do now?" she taunted, crossing her arms defiantly as her friends linked up alongside her mother and father. Derek's eyes danced with rage, but Lila read something deeper, a flicker of fear as he realized he was outnumbered. In that moment, everything felt like it was on the brink. Would they finally gain control, or would Derek unleash something they weren't prepared for? Questions hung thick in the air as the tension crackled like electricity. Lila knew all too well that battles often had unexpected twists. Would the next move be his or theirs? The answer loomed just out of reach, teetering on the edge of confrontation. What would happen when Derek finally felt the pressure of family and friendship closing in around him? Derek's confidence wavered as the room filled with friends who had rallied behind Lila. It was as if the walls themselves stood to protect her, the energy pulsing between them igniting an unstoppable force. She sensed her father tightening his grip on the past, her mother filling with courage that had long been dormant. Derek smirked, but it was thin. The cracks in his facade were visible. "You think a bunch of kids can change anything?" His voice dripped with dismissiveness, but the way his eyes darted across the crowd betrayed him. They might be kids, Lila responded, grounding herself in the surge of support. But we're not afraid of you. Lila spoke louder, feeling the heat of determination coursing through her legs. This ends from here on out. You've used intimidation long enough. It's time the truth came out. Jake stepped forward, joining Lila at the forefront, confidence pouring from him like a warm sun. We have the evidence we need. No more hiding, Derek. You're not untouchable. Derek shifted uncomfortably, the weight of scrutiny pressing down like a heavy fog. Evidence? What do you have? He retorted, but his bravado flickered for an instant. Enough to expose your involvement with the city council, Lila said, her voice unwavering. We've reached out for support, and we're not backing down. You should be worried. His demeanor shifted, a hint of disbelief emerging as Lila's words sank into the crowd. Her friend stepped forward, joining hands in solidarity like a chain link against oppression. Who's with us? Lila called out, eyes scanning the room. Hands shot into the air, familiar faces of students, parents, and teachers, from those whom she fought for day after day. It's time for the truth. No more secrets. Applause broke out, a swell of support that resonated through the crowd, igniting a collective spirit unlike anything Lila had ever felt. She turned back to Derek, whose confidence was rapidly evaporating, replaced by panic. You think you can just rally them and change everything? He blustered, but the challenge in his tone fell apart, revealing fear. Lila stepped closer, her heart racing. No more fibs, Derek. No more lies. It's time we all take responsibility, you included. You can't hide behind your wealth and deceit anymore. At that moment, Lila felt a warmth spread through her, fueled by the courage of those gathered, a strength that shattered the isolation Derek had wielded. I won't allow you to manipulate us anymore, her mother shouted, finally stepping into the light, her resolve shining like a beacon. You're not the man you pretend to be. Suddenly, Derek's mask slipped completely. You think you have support? He spat, eyes wild. I know people, I can take everything from you both. Lila felt the air thicken. The stakes were high and Derek was desperate. What more could you possibly take? She demanded, her spirit ablaze. The love for each other? The truth that will set us, and you, free? With one final glance to her allies, Lila heard her father speak with a steely calmness that resonated. Let's strip back the layers and let the truth flood out, Derek. Everyone deserves the chance to know who you really are. Derek's expression darkened, the weight of vulnerability heavy like chains as he realized his threats were ineffectual. As the pressure mounted, Lila leaned in closer. You've built walls, but now the cracks are widening, and soon they'll collapse. It's not just about us anymore, it's about accountability. Just then, an unexpected siren wail echoed nearby, drifting toward the gala. Tension rippled through Derek. The authorities were arriving, and shadows danced beneath the dim lights where once only illusion thrived. Derek's bravado flickered under the weight of reality. You think this changes anything? I'm not afraid. You're just stalling. With the police arriving, Lila stood firm, allowing the courage to embrace her. Maybe you should start being afraid. This time, you won't walk away unscathed. As the crowd held their breath, police officers pushed through the entrance, their uniforms sharper than shadows as they scanned the room. Lila felt the tide of conviction rising. Lila, what's happening? A uniformed officer asked, his gaze sharp with focus. This man. She glanced again at Derek, emboldened. He's been involved in misconduct with the city council, and he's been lying about his true nature. We need to hold him accountable. The police officers nodded, their expressions wavering between judgment and intrigue, ready to protect the community they served. As Derek's fury morphed into despair, Lila's heart swelled. This was it, the moment the truth surged forth, where secrets could no longer hold power over them. She felt her mother's hand tighten around hers, the unity shining through every bond they'd forged. In that moment, under the radiant lights and flickering tension, Lila understood. They had rewritten their narrative, transforming the narrative of betrayal into a legacy of resilience. A promise to one another, as family and friends, united against darkness. With one powerful proclamation, Lila opened her heart for all to hear. This isn't just about my mother. It's about all of us finding peace together. No one walks alone anymore. The police prepared to take Derek into custody, the air charged with relief, trust, and hope. Hope that Lila would no longer have to fight her battles alone. As Derek's world crumbled around him, Lila turned toward her family and friends, the ties of their love woven tightly into a tapestry of transformation. They had reclaimed their hearts, banished the shadows, and uncovered the brightness that remained. This was the moment of change, the dawning of healing, and as they stepped forward together, an ultimate truth emerged. They would continue fighting, thriving under the banner of honesty and love. And just like that, amidst cries of support and unity, they reclaimed their lives and illuminated a future filled with hope, breaking free from what had once sought to bind them. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to harness more incredible stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button to fuel the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait. Not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Let's build a community centered on truth, love, and empowerment together.